Hello everybody, I hope you're doing well on this very special day. You might be asking yourself, what's so special about today? Well, if you read the title, I guess you already know, but today is the release day of The Quest, Yes's 22nd studio album, and I'm very excited to share my thoughts with you today, and I have a lot of them. First off, let me say that I'm very, very pleasantly surprised with how this album turned out, and I'm very happy about everything that I've listened to about it and I've read up on over the past couple days. And so I'm going to share my thoughts with you, as usual, with a background on the album and then my analysis of more in-depth. So as I said, it is the 22nd studio album, with the lineup being Steve Howe, John Davidson, Billy Sherwood, Jeff Downes, and Alan White. It is kind of a ragtag group, kind of pulling from Yes's different eras, and kind of making a new, different kind of group. And I'm very, very surprised, as I said before, as to what they produced. I've listened to the album twice already. I stayed up until midnight, even though I had class very early the next day, and I said, you know what? How many more times am I going to get to say, there's a new Yes album coming out tomorrow? So you know that I stayed up until midnight to listen to all of it, and I did. And yeah, I was very tired, so my thoughts were kind of a mess, but then I listened to it when I woke up this morning, and kind of got my thoughts in order to share my thoughts with you. And what I've come up with generally is that the first half of the album is really solid. There's some songs that I added to my big rock playlist, which is kind of big because when I come across a song that I'm like, ooh, I should add that to my playlist, I know that's pretty darn good, at least for my standards. So I'll have to share with you which ones I added to my playlist and which ones are my favorite. But before I get into that, the second half of the album is kind of lacking, in my opinion. There's maybe a song and a half-ish that I thought were pretty solid. But on the whole, the second half was kind of lacking. It was just there. Nothing too amazing, nothing too bad, which is kind of the theme of this. Unless it's something that I think is slightly stand out, there's nothing too much wrong with it. It's just kind of like, that's a song. You wrote it. It's there. You sang it. You did it. It's done. All right, now getting into the analysis a little bit more. I'm not going to talk about every single song because there's a lot on this album. I'm just going to kind of touch on the ones that I think are stand out for one reason or another. Leave Well Alone is my favorite song on this album. I thought I was going to like The Ice Bridge the best or Dare to Know because I already knew those. I listened to them occasionally and I thought they were pretty solid tracks. But Leave Well Alone is my favorite. It features Steve Howe playing the Japanese koto. Let me put a picture of it on screen if you don't know what it is. It's a traditional Japanese instrument that I think there's a lot of different variations of it, from 13 string to 21 string, but it is very reminiscent of a slide guitar, which is Steve Howe's specialty. And so I was very excited to see how he would incorporate that, and he incorporated it very, very well. He also does some backup vocals. It doesn't supplement enough for the kind of airiness and the lack of power of the vocals, as I've touched on with John Davidson before. But it's enough. It's enough to kind of pull it through. The koto and the guitar sections are absolutely fantastic, and the progression through different sections I think is great. What I was kind of missing on The Ice Bridge and Dare to Know was kind of some clear sections and some nice classic progressive rock progression. And we kind of got that on this song, and this is the song, or one of them, that I added to my classic rock playlist. It's really, really fantastic. If you haven't heard it already, please take a listen because it is really, really solid. On the whole, John Anderson, that was a Freudian slip of who I want, but no, John Davidson. John Davidson's voice is solid. He has really good tonality when he sings in a range that's good for him. He tries to get all lofty and in the high notes as the person that I use my Freudian slip with, but that's just not him. That's not his voice. So if he plays to his vocal range, as showcased in some songs like A Living Island, which is one of the last songs on this album, there is some good parts. He has some really good stuff that he does, but he really tries too hard to do stuff that isn't within his vocal prowess and in his vocal technique, which isn't knocking him. That's not bad. I mean, as a vocalist myself, there's just things I can't do. There's just things you can't do with your voice. And so when he sticks to what he can do very well, it's really solid. And as usual, Steve Howe carries on literally everything. His prowess is shown so well. He's really the heart and soul of this album, in my opinion, because I just love Steve Howe so much. I love him, obviously, in Yes, and his solo work, I think, is fantastic. So I'm a big Steve Howe fan. Maybe I'm biased, but what can I say? And the Ice Bridge and Dare to Know, really solid tracks, as I said before. If you haven't seen the videos that I've made on each of them individually, please do check them out. I go in my thoughts more in depth into my thoughts in those videos, so I'm not going to touch too much on them in this one. Minus the Man, I think this is a great track. It really, there's not much to say about the track itself too much, besides that it's really solid and there's some good stuff in it, but it's really good at rounding out the album. It's not super, super noteworthy, and I'm not going to look back on this album and think, ooh, that song, because I think there's a couple others I'd look to first. But it's just a great way of rounding out the album. It's a really solid track. The Western Edge, this has something that I think is missing throughout this album and a lot of the past couple albums, Yes. Is that Billy Sherwood sings on this song a little bit. He kind of co-vocals with John Davidson. And we need more of it. Obviously, he is older, and so he kind of has that kind of older quality to his voice. But he has some great power there. Some great stuff that is really crucial, and I think, to the rest of the album. I'm sad that this is the only one that he is on, because we really, really should get some more. If there is another Yes album coming on the horizon, which I really hope there is, because, you know, this is my favorite group of all time, I hope he sings more on it, because he really brings what I think is lacking. So I cannot say enough good on this song and Billy Sherwood's vocals. I think it's absolutely fantastic. The rest of this album is pretty decent. The track Music to My Ears is really solid. I found that the songs, inadvertently once I looked it up, the songs that I like the most are the ones written by Steve Howe. And maybe that was my retroactive bias coming through. But I think that the Steve Howe pieces are really great. This whole album is really solid. I think that it is the best stuff since Magnification. If you don't like Magnification as much as I do, maybe you could say it's the best stuff since like the mid-90s. But I am biased since that's one of my favorite albums of all time, Magnification. So yeah, I think there's some really good stuff on this. As I've said in my previous videos, I try my best not to compare this too much to the Golden Age Yes stuff from the 70s. Because it's just not the same. As much as we all would love John Anderson to be in this group, that's just not the way it is. So I'm going to take it for what it is and enjoy it as much as I can. And I really enjoyed this album. So yes, could I pick this to pieces and say there's so much wrong with each one of these tracks? I bet I could. If you look hard enough, if you look with the lens of criticism, you can find something wrong with anything. But I really want to give this the listen and the appreciation that it deserves. And I think it should be remembered as a really solid album and some really good progress from the last album, which I really didn't care for. Heaven and Earth, not my favorite, as I've said before. But this is really solid, and I'm happy it is what it is, you know? I'm glad that it is, there's some great songs that I have added to my playlist and stuff that I will listen to in the future. So yeah, I'm excited for my vinyl that I pre-ordered to get shipped in, hopefully later today, if not tomorrow. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts. Solid album that I'm really happy I can partake in with the release and share my thoughts as soon as it's released. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my analysis. If you have anything different that you want to say, please be sure to leave it in the comments. If you have any criticisms on my criticisms, please let me know. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next video, whatever that might be, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.